Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone, and welcome back to a fresh episode of Knock of the Perch, a Manchester United podcast. Doing it alone today. Dheeraj couldn't join for this one, and we thought we'll get out the episode wherein we talk about first game of the Europa League against FC Twente. Very disappointing result. We had hoped for an easy victory. In the preview pod, we had talked about a possible 3-0 victory, and Dheeraj had predicted a 2-1 victory. So we were both very confident on the win, but that didn't happen. And unlike Crystal Palace, where it felt that we had a very good game, it was just a matter of finishing. This game leaves us a lot more thinking about where is it that our performances are going? How is it that this team can overcome some of the issues that we've been dealing with? But yeah, let's get right into it. The first half was decent, to be very honest. For the first 25-30 minutes, we didn't see much happening. FC Twente, in fact, had a big chance in between where almost felt like our defense had switched off. This was from the corner when the ball went right through the D and Dallo was chasing the ball and he very easily gave up the ball, which almost felt like, it was a moment when a lot of players within the team switched off at that point in time. And after that, FC Twente had a shot and the ball was just whiskers away from the post. So thankfully, we didn't concede at that point in time. Otherwise, the game could have been very different. But later, we grew into the game a little bit. We had a few more shots in the first half, and which is where eventually we ended up getting a goal. We were able to make a few more chances, and the eventual goal came from a scrappy piece of play where the ball fell to Eriksen and he had a good shot on target and he managed to get a goal in that. After the goal, we continued to put pressure on the opposition. We didn't get any other shot in that particular half. But coming at the end of the first half, it felt we can only get better from here. We had grown into the game, especially towards the last 10-15 minutes of the first half. And it almost felt like it will be a matter of time before we grab the second goal as well. And then we are comfortably cruising in the game. However, as we stepped into the second half, the game started slightly slow. Not a lot of chances were being created by either side at that point in time. But once we hit close to the 56th, 57th minute mark, this entire chain started with Licha Martinez making a foul, which led to a free kick. That free kick was on target. Onana did well to save that, but it almost felt like the momentum shifted after that. FC Twente came into the game a little more. Around the 60th minute mark, we could see United players starting to tire a little bit is what I felt. And it almost felt like that was the point wherein United needed to make a couple of substitutions. That didn't happen. Eventually, we did make a substitution with Garnacho coming on from Ahmad, which was a fair substitution at that point in time. Garnacho was fresh with 25-30 minutes left in play. He could have impacted and gotten a goal. So that was a fair shift. And it was seconds after Garnacho came on. I think it was the right back of Twente, Rui, if I am pronouncing his name right. He ran past 3 to 4 United players, dribbled almost half of the field, and which is when there were a couple of tackles. I think it was a Harry Maguire tackle which stopped the ball, but the ball fell to Eriksen. And somewhat similar to what we had seen in the game against Liverpool, where the moment the ball was coming to a midfielder, and because the United midfielders were slow, even in the Liverpool game, there were a couple of players which tried to press instantly. And this time it was Lammers who was able to press Eriksen, get the ball off him. And then he had an open field in front of him. And he went ahead, took a shot. And Onana could have done better at his near post. And that went in for a goal. So once it became 1-1, it was pretty evident that United will go all guns blazing, but we never really got going. Even after that, in the 79th minute, we did make a triple substitution with Menu coming in, Højlund coming in and Mount coming in as well. Although we did push a lot, we did attack a lot, but it never felt like we are close to getting a goal. So all in all, towards the last 5-10 minutes, I never felt that, okay, a goal is just about to come. It was almost that we were trying to put pressure, but we are not able to make much out of it. And yeah, the game ended 1-1 and I would say a very disappointing result. This was the only home game for us from pot 4 in the Europa League. If we look at the UEFA coefficient, we look at how the pots had been distributed, it was most likely the easiest match for us in the Europa League and we only got a point there. And in order to finish top 8, which will guarantee us a place in the round of 16, we will need to get another 14, 15 points. That is 5 wins out of 7. And it's not going to be easy. We will have a few tougher oppositions. We have Porto, we have Mourinho's Fenerbahce to come. So yeah, it won't be easy, but hopefully we can come out of it better. Talking specifically about some of the players, if we look at the XG that our team created, it was Joshua Zirkzee who had the highest XG. He had 2 shots. One of them was on target, which was in the second half. And it was a good play that he made. He wasn't very active in the entire game, but it was a good play that he made. And that was a good shot that he took in the second half, but that was not the one that created more XG for him. The one in the first half where the play was built from the right, Zirkzee could have, maybe slid in and taken the shot. That had a high XG, and that was one of the big chances that was created for us. Then Harry Maguire had a few shots. I think, in fact, he had 4 shots, 2 on target. One was off target and one was blocked, and most of them were from corner routine. We are continuing to be the first to reach the ball on the set pieces on the corner. So that is a good sign, but we were not able to create much out of it. Apart from that, we didn't really do much. In fact, even the goal that came through from Eriksen was a very low XG shot. And the fact that it went in is a bit of a lucky goal for us. So even that one goal that came wasn't very convincing. Talking specifically about Bruno Fernandes, and we spoke about him in the previous pod as well, where we talked about the pass completion percentage of the team and players around Bruno. Even in this game, we had a pass successful percentage of 86%. And players around Bruno Eriksen had a 93% pass completion. Even Ugarte had 81%. Ahmad had 95%. Zirkzee had 93%. It was Bruno and Rashford which had a poor pass completion percentage. And Bruno specifically because he gets the ball so much. And the very fact that he only had 75% pass completion every 1 in 4 balls he was giving away when he was making a pass. I think that is a big challenge that this team is facing. And maybe Erik ten Hag will have to figure out a way to make that better. Otherwise, it will be a big challenge for us going forward. Talking about some of the defensive actions that our players did, Manuel Ugarte was involved in 9 defensive actions. And I was trying to observe him throughout the match. He wasn't influencing the game a lot. He was not able to maybe make those penetrating passes or make those clever balls where we are building forward. But he was the most involved in defensive actions, and which is what the statistics also prove. So I think he's a player of that mold where he will sit in front of the center backs. He will try to protect them and ensure that we are not conceding a lot of goals, which is fair from him. But he is not a transformational player for this team is the feeling I'm getting. He will be a good utility player, but he is not going to transform this team. That was the expectation earlier, at least in the current form that he is. And to be fair to Ugarte, he is just settling into the patterns of play here. So hopefully that will come. Apart from that, Rashford, I would definitely want to talk about, especially in the first half. Rashford was showing a lot of promise. It seemed that he is regained a bit of confidence. He was doing a lot of take-ons. He was dribbling past some of the FC Twente defenders on the right, and which is where I felt that a goal from Rashford could come, but it didn't at the end of it. That aside, I feel Rashford is gaining confidence. Maybe once again talking about the game against Crystal Palace, Rashford should have started. That would have continued the momentum that he had gained in the previous 2 games, but all that is in the past now. Rashford really needs to use this newfound confidence that he has and convert them to goals now. That will be very critical. Eriksen I spoke about earlier. He was good for the first 60 odd minutes, and after that I felt a little he is losing the legs, and which is where the mistake also came from him. But he was largely positive throughout the game, throughout the first 60 minutes, wherein even he got the goal, he even made 3 key passes, which was tied top with Diego Dalot. But we'll have to figure out a way as to how we can continue to control the games without being dependent on Eriksen, because Eriksen has started now 4 games in 10 days. And I don't think it can continue. Eriksen can be a good squad player, but he cannot be our first 11, and we can't be fully dependent on Eriksen to solve our midfield control issues that we have had for the last few games. The other player I wanted to talk about was Diego Dallo. Now, it's a very interesting case because Diego Dallo's confidence on the ball, his ability to be able to transition into an inverted midfielder is helping the team a lot in creating those overloads in the midfield. We noticed that against Crystal Palace also. We noticed that against FC Twente also. Dallo steps up into the midfield and the other two midfielders that are already there along with Bruno and Zirkzee, it sort of creates a five-man midfield which is good enough to overpower the opponent's midfield and grab the ball quickly, and then they can play the ball to either of the wingers who can then build on the attack for us. But as much as Dallo was good in that, he was even carrying the ball forward. He had 3 key passes also. So he could have had an assist had we been able to convert his passes into goals. But I think where he's significantly lacking is doing his defensive duties, and that maybe is also hurting the team a little. I was just trying to see, he only had 2 defensive actions throughout the entire game. One of them was an interception and one of them was a tackle that he made, and apart from that, nothing else. It's pretty off compared to the other fullback that we have, Mazraoui on the right back. He had 6 defensive actions, 4 tackles and 2 interceptions, and if I'm not wrong, he was successful in a lot of them. So he is very effectively sort of displaying what Dallo is not able to do on the left side. And obviously playing left back is something that does not come naturally to Dallo. So he has been a good makeshift option, but we just can't wait to get a left-footed left back. Hopefully Shaw is able to come back quickly. Malaysia is already back on the grass. He's training with the squad in a limited capacity. So yeah, we'll need some of our left-footed left backs back. And lastly, talking about Zirkzee. Zirkzee, I think, had a bit of an odd game. Initially, he was sort of carrying on in the same vein of form that he had against Crystal Palace. He was able to build on that link-up play, which he's been doing really well. There was a period where he had that couple of 1-2s with Rashford, and he had a really good chance also coming out of it. But for some reason, didn't see much impact from him in the second half, apart from that one chance. And maybe it was a factor of the entire team starting to tire. We were seeing in the second half, we were not pressing FC Twente as much. We were a little bit trying to absorb and trying to find those specific moments where we can be pressing, which is where FC Twente also grew into the game. So I think there are multiple factors. Rotation has to come into play. Zirkzee started a few games on the bounce now, except for the Barnsley game. And with Højlund fit, we will have to figure out maybe a way where in the next few games, it's Zirkzee coming on as a impact sub and Højlund starts those games. But yeah, we will figure that out. So all in all, it was a game which leaves a lot for us to be craving for. We need to do better in finishing. We need to do better to control the games. And the very fact that we have had few average or fairly above average performances in the last few games, but have not had the results that a club like United needs to bring out, I think this is starting to create a lot of pressure on Erik ten Hag. Although there is a section of the fan base which continues to back the process, which continues to trust the process, and even we are some of those supporters who continue to trust the process. We have realized that Ineos came in last year itself. It's only been a few months since we have started to see the entire project come into action. We have had a decent transfer window. We can clearly see some patterns emerging. But in this game, it was a bit of a mixed bag where there were periods of play where we displayed those patterns, but there were again periods of play, and those were larger periods when we did not display those patterns, and we resulted to maybe bit of the ways of the last season. So pressure is definitely mounting on Erik ten Hag, and the only thing that will let him off the hook are the results. United really need to get in the results now, and with the games coming thick and fast, we have Spurs up next at Old Trafford, then we travel for the second game of the Europa League to Porto, and then we travel to Villa Park for a very important game against Aston Villa. Those 3 games I think are going to be very critical. Those are the games before the international break, and these could end up defining what our future as Manchester United is going to be in this season, because if the results don't go our way, it could be a huge challenge with 2 weeks of international break and a lot of pressure mounting on United. On the other hand, if we can grab a couple of wins, in this period we can continue to perform well, we can continue to control games better, and maybe move up the league table through good performances and results in these 3 games, I think we go into the international break with a lot more ease. So this period of the next 3 games is going to be critical. On the evidence of last 2 games, it seems like it is going to be a difficult one for United. But is it turnaround possible? I would say yes. I think the team has been focusing on a certain way of playing. The team has been building a style of play where we are pressing in a very coordinated manner. When everything is falling right, we are pressing in a very coordinated manner. We are creating those overloads in the midfield, where the midfielders are supported by one of the fullbacks, and Xerxes also drops in deep to grab the ball of the opposition, and we then build on our attacks. And even defensively, we have been very solid. We have conceded 1 goal in the last 4 games now, so which is where Licha Martinez's presence is creating a lot of stability in the defense. De Ligt's presence and even Harry Maguire has been decent. So either of them playing right side of the centre back, I think, is creating a lot of solidity in our central defense. And one person I would definitely want to talk about is Mazraoui. He has been central to some of the good performances we have had. And whenever, as a team, we are not performing well, Mazraoui is still standing out as a critical player. He's continuing to display how good he is, and he will continue to be the figure that could define how well we do in this period. So nobody expected that. At the start of the season, when we signed Mazraoui, we were probably more excited about De Ligt signing when both of them were announced for Manchester United. But I think Mazraoui is someone who has become more critical for United. Him along with Ahmad are really doing well on the right side of the pitch for United. And on the current form, I would say Mazraoui starts over Dalot if we had to make a choice on the right back when we have our left back. So some of these things that I just talked about, I think if everything starts falling into place, and on top of that, if our wingers in Rashford, Garnacho, Ahmad, along with Xerxes and Højlund are able to finish the chances they are getting, I see us making a good comeback, and maybe the next game against Spurs is a good starting point for that. All right, so this was interesting. Tried doing a solo review of the game for the first time, and it was slightly difficult, but enjoyed doing it. Hopefully, both of us are back for the next one, and we'll see you for the preview of the game against Spurs. Till then, do share this with your friends. Let us know how is it that we can improve this further. And yeah, as always, this is our perch. Let's knock him off. Until next time, stay united.